Most people buy canned meat the same way. They grab what looks familiar, throw it in the basket, and just assume it's all basically the same, but it's not. Some canned meats are actually useful, they're filling, they're reliable, and they give you something you can depend on. Others, they take up space and don't give you much back, low protein, strange texture, or just not something you'd realistically want to eat more than once. And that's the problem, because when you're stocking food, you don't want variety, you want things that actually work. So instead of guessing, let's go straight into the canned meats that are worth having, and the ones most people get wrong. Start with tuna. This is one of the most common options, and for good reason. It's high in protein, easy to eat, and doesn't need anything extra. But here's what matters. Not all tuna is equal. Some cans are packed in water, others in oil. Oil-packed tuna gives you more calories, which makes it more useful when you're relying on it. So the difference isn't just taste, it's function. Now, something similar. Canned salmon. This is often overlooked, but it's one of the better options you can have. It's rich, filling, and gives you more variety than tuna. Some versions even include soft bones, which adds extra nutrients. It's not for everyone, but it's one of the more complete canned proteins available. Now, move to canned chicken. This is where things get interesting, because chicken is familiar, easy, flexible. You can eat it straight, or mix it with other foods. But here's the issue. Some canned chicken is extremely dry, which makes it harder to eat on its own. So if you're choosing it, go for versions with better moisture, because that changes everything. Now, something heavier. Corned beef. This is one of the most calorie-dense options. It's rich, salty, and very filling. You don't need much to feel satisfied, which makes it useful when you're trying to stretch your food. But it's also something you don't want too much of because it's heavy. So this works best in smaller amounts, not as your only option. Now, let's talk about Spam. This one really divides people. Some folks love it, and some avoid it completely. But, from a practical perspective, it works. High calories, long shelf life, and it's ready to eat. Sure, it's not perfect, but it's reliable. And, honestly, reliability matters more than preference when you're stocking food. Now, here's something people tend to underestimate. Canned ham. It sort of sits somewhere between Spam and fresh meat. It's softer, more natural in texture, and yeah, easier to eat, but it's also less dense, so, while it's a good option, it won't carry you as far as heavier meats. Now, something a bit different. Canned sardines. They're small, simple, but honestly, very effective. They're packed with nutrients, high in protein, and surprisingly, pretty filling for their size. The only downside? Well, the taste and smell. Not everyone enjoys them. So, this is definitely one of those things you should try first, before you rely on it. Now, anchovies, these are even smaller and honestly, even stronger in flavor. These aren't really something you eat on their own, but they're useful as an addition. They can change the taste of basic food and make simple meals more enjoyable. So while they're not a main option, they still have a place. Now, let's talk about something a bit more practical. Canned beef chunks. These are closer to real meals. You're actually getting pieces of meat, better texture, and more substance. Compared to processed meats, this just feels more complete, which, honestly, makes it easier to rely on over time. Now, let's talk about canned turkey. This is less common, but still useful. It's lighter than beef, easier to eat, and works well if you want some variety. But like chicken, quality really matters here, because some versions can be dry or bland. Now, here's something people often ignore. Canned sausages. These are convenient, ready to eat, and fairly dense, but they vary a lot in quality. Some are actually decent, while others just feel processed and low value. So, this is one where brand choice really matters. Now here's something important. Mixed meat products. Things like meat spreads or pâté. These can be useful, easy to eat, soft in texture, but they're not very filling. So, they work as extras, not as a base. Now, step back for a second. Because this isn't about finding the best canned meat, it's about avoiding the wrong ones. That's where most people lose value. Now, imagine this. You open your cupboard, and all you have is low-protein options, small portions, things you don't really want to eat. You technically have food, but honestly, it doesn't help much. That's exactly what you're trying to avoid. Now something simple, but critical. Protein. This is the main reason canned meat matters. Because protein keeps you full, it helps maintain energy, and it makes a small amount of food go further. So when you're choosing canned meats, look at what you're actually getting, not just the label, now calories. Because this matters just as much. Some canned meats are surprisingly low, others are very dense, and when you're stocking food, you want efficiency. More calories per can means fewer cans needed overall. Now something most people don't think about. Texture. Because when you rely on something, you have to be able to eat it comfortably. Dry meat, tough texture, or overly processed options become difficult over time. So practicality isn't just nutrition. It's also how easy it is to eat. Now let's talk about storage. Canned meats last a long time, but like anything, they need proper conditions. Cool, dry, no damage. A dented can isn't just cosmetic, it can affect safety. So always check before storing. Now something small, but important. Rotation. Most people buy canned food and forget about it. But over time, things get pushed to the back. So rotating your stock keeps everything usable. Now, variety. You don't want 20 of the same thing, because eventually, you won't want to eat it. So mix it. Different textures, different flavors, different types, but still keep it practical. Now here's the real shift. Most people shop based on habit, what they like, what they recognize. But when you're stocking food, you need to think differently. You need to ask, does this actually work? Does it keep me full? Would I rely on this? Because when it comes down to it, that's what matters. So next time you're buying canned meat, don't just grab what's familiar. Look at what actually delivers. Because small decisions like this add up over time. And when you open your cupboard later, you'll notice the difference. Not just that you have food, but that you have food that actually works.